Go.
Hello, my name is Raheem Pounds, and my speech is about you get photo identification for your voter rights. The new law being passed is the House Bill 589. The House Bill, what it's about, it is to make sure that we voting goes smoothly in North Carolina. Why was it made? It was made to uh, lessen on voter fraud. Even though North Carolina hasn't been seen as a state known for voter fraud, it is the government, our North Carolina government, trying to put more, take more security measures and put those in place so that it won't be seen. It won't happen here. Who does it affect? North Carolina voters, but recently in the news, it's being seen as indirectly affecting minority voters, college students, and the elderly. In the public eye, the three things that's mainly being seen as a negative or being seen as a real big deal is the photo ID requirement, the no same-day registration, and no out-of-precinct voting. These three things affect more of the minority because it just presses it puts a hold on how we vote. The photo requirement, you must have two forms of ID, and those ID must be either a driver's license, U.S. passport, and yeah, no same day registration. A lot of college students use same day registration, or a lot of U.S. citizens use same day registration because they don't see it as they have time to actually register beforehand and then vote. You must be registered 25 days before the actual election day. No out precinct voting. It affects college students because if you're voting out of your hometown or out of your precinct, you can't take your provisional ballots to a different precinct, and because if you do, it won't be counted. The salt and the sugar. The positives, you get a free ID. That's one good thing, which is you need an ID to basically do anything in North Carolina or anywhere. You need it to do your taxes, you need it to apply for a job, basically anything under the sun, basically. Less voter fraud, which is a good thing. Even though, like I said, North Carolina hasn't been seen as a state known for voter fraud or caught up with a lot of voter fraud cases, it's also good to take measures that it won't happen. More informed voting. Since there is no straight ticket ballot, you have to actually sit down and see who you're voting for. A lot of people, they just vote straight ticket, so they basically kind of don't really make an informed choice on who is going to be running their government for that year, for that section of the year. The negatives, the ID requirement. A U.S. passport would be deemed as something that more of your upper class would use, and not a lot of minorities own passports, so that's seen as a negative. Straight ticket ballot. Even though straight ticket ballot calls for a less informed vote, a lot of people, they want to just get in and get out of the ballots on election day because there's a lot of hectic mess, and they really don't just want to sit there and read and mark every little box. No same day registration. As I said before, college students utilize this because I know I've used it a few times. being that same-day registration, being that you have to be registered 25 days before, it requires you to take time that you may not have to go register and vote. Who does it affect? Minority voters, college students, and the elderly. It affects minority voters because they generally can't attain those certain forms of identification, or they generally don't attain forms of identification because there's no use for them. College students, you can't use a college ID to vote anymore. It's not seen as a valid form of identification, so therefore you can't use it. And the out of precinct voting, which would kind of hinder that. The elderly, it affects them, but not as much as it would the other two. These are some projections at how our state is going to look as far as who's inhabited. Yes, non-Hispanics and whites populate they hold the most over the whole state right now, and eventually they still will. But as you can see, if you stack these projections on top of each other, which is the minority, which are Hispanics, Blacks, and Asians, they eventually in year 2050 they will outrank the non-Hispanic whites. So this kind of puts a hindrance on them because sooner or later the minorities will become the majority. My conclusion: the main concern is the fact that this is being seen as a negative thing. It's really more seen as a Jim Crow law, and being that since the Jim Crow laws were abolished, and when the government tried to they basically made the southern states, if ever they passed something about voting, it had to be ran through the U.S. Congress. What's helpful is the fact that they're actually genuinely trying to stop voter fraud and giving people a chance for a more informed vote. Questions and concerns?
I got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, for free IDs, is that the voter registration card you get in the mail, or is that a whole new government issued ID?
It is a government issued ID. That's a special ID, not a DMV ID like a driver's license or something like that. It's just a regular ID with your photo, place you live, and all that stuff, date of birth, just that standard form of identification. Yes, sir.
And what is voter fraud?
Voter fraud is basically people taking a form of voter fraud would be someone stuffing ballots or probably politicking at the ballots. You have been known to throw away votes, and that's considered a form of voter fraud.
I have
Yes, ma'am.
one is, can you explain the whole free ID thing? And if someone doesn't have two forms of ID, what do they need to do?
Okay. What was your question again? Okay, what was the first question again?
The first question is the free ID thing. How does that work out?
Okay, so first you would go to the DMV after registering, and you would show them that you registered to vote, and and you would have to have a place with some form of identification on where you live, like a bill that you receive with your name on it, and or a date birth certificate, and they would issue you an ID, and of course it would be non-special, and you would receive your ID in the mail.
Okay, and what if you don't have two forms of ID?
If you don't have two forms of ID, if you have one form, you can still vote, but you would have to leave, get another form of identification, and you would have to come back to where they count the votes, and you would have to make sure that that newer form of identification is taken so that your vote will count. Yes, ma'am.
Would you say it would be harder for students that's out of state going to college here? It would be harder for them to vote?
Yes, because being that you can't just submit your vote in any precinct anymore, you would have to basically mail it in and get it counted. It just puts a hindrance on having everything accounted for in a timely fashion. It kind of slows down the process of how our state runs, and it just kind of puts that hindrance on people. It's more of a restraint than anything. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the two forms of ID, you said I can still vote if I only have one form of ID. What if I don't come back with the second one, my vote then doesn't count?
Yes, it does not count. Yes, sir.
And my last question is there, how is the community outlook on this new bill being in place? Are there positive feedback or negative feedback?
Well, really and truly, it's a whole lot of negative feedback in the community and in higher forms of government. A lot of people are really not liking this bill because they see it as discriminative, and the fact that it is kind of hindering a lot of people from voting, and that just kind of pushes people in a negative way. This is my bibliography for all my sources.